Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stunner. We're here with another episode of VSW. And we got a very special guest today with us, pro wrestler and booker, Johnny Primer.
Hey man, what's up? It's great to be here. I'm excited. I haven't done a podcast in a long, long time, so let's get down to it.
Yeah, I'm excited myself. I used to, believe it or not, I used to just like see your posts on on Twitter back when it was Twitter, and just kind of followed you along. We always kind of just circled in different shows, but in the same area. I do like to travel a lot to Maine for wrestling, and if I'm correct, that's where you kind of started out, right?
Yeah, I started training in Maine for a company called Rampage Pro Wrestling that no longer exists. I realized that wasn't the company for me, so I took some time off, and then I don't even remember what company it was. I think it was NWH that I started wrestling, and that was 2008, I think. So it's been a few years.
Yeah, you've been in it for a while now. Like I said, so many companies have come and gone, but Maine, it does have excellent wrestling out there, and today is it's probably one of the top regions in the country. All eyes on. I mean, people like MJF and other top superstars have walked through halls in Maine and now are on the national level, and it's just great to see that.
Oh yeah, I agree. A lot of the guy, MJF, Sasha Banks used to wrestle for IWE back in the day. Christian Casanova, now known as Carmelo Hayes, he was there. Dijak, those are just to name a few. One of the Viking Raiders, Warriors, whatever they're called now. He came to Maine a few times. He was in the New England area, so there's a lot of people come out of here. So
Oh yeah, I mean, even another favorite of mine is on Dirty Dango. He's another one. Great wrestler. He might not have got the best run in my opinion, but he got to the next level, and then he's even doing good now in the indie scene. So it's good to see so many people in the area kind of get picked. Whereas, like, I don't know, maybe it was just because I'm young. I was younger and not, but 20 years ago when I saw people getting signed deals. I didn't know really where they came from or who they were. And it might just be, booking practices for bigger companies. I know, like, when I first started watching wrestling, a lot of wrestlers came, from sports backgrounds.
yeah, I agree with that. Like we didn't have. I don't know how old you are, but I'm 40, be 41 this year. We didn't have the internet telling us where these guys were coming from. They were just there, they'd pop up, and now the internet's everywhere, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it has its double edged. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to kind of see people. When you see someone new, let's say, show up at Limitless or another show, and it's kind of cool that you can kind of see what other promotions they work, and such, and see other matches. But then it is a double edged sword because then you got to deal with fans, and honestly, wrestling fans, I think, are some of the worst fans of any kind of fandom.
I agree and I disagree at the same time. If it wasn't for the fans, then I wouldn't still be here, to be honest with you. Like I had an injury, so I was out for like 2 years, and I came back because that's what the fans wanted to see. They wanted to see Johnny Primer, which, unbeknownst to me, I just thought I was just another cog in the machine.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you have fans that are just really passionate, and that's great. The passion is great, and that that's what keep people. It keeps the wrestlers I know coming back. When they go look out in the crowd and they either see somebody happy and cheering, or they even see somebody booing and mad. They know they've done what they were supposed to do, and they get this joy and this sense of well being. And a lot of it can be done for the kids too. Bringing entertainment. But then you have all these fans that are just there. I don't know what for, honestly. If you don't like something that much, don't spend so much time on it. That's all I can say. There's just people just dedicated to hating on the wrestling, and it's not even like uneducated, stupid stuff like, oh, wrestling's fake and this is this, or like just vague stuff. It's people that actually know what they're talking about hating on it. And I've seen it in the indie scene. I've seen it in, a lot in WWE, AEW. I mean, it's ridiculous out there. I won't even cover it on my podcast because the fan base just gets so wild with their like interactions with each other over the same topic. It's just, I've never seen it. Like I said, before we used to, watch wrestling as a kid, or have teenage, we'd have people over, we'd have a party. Whatever happened, happened. Like it wasn't the end of the world if, The Rock walked away still with the championship belt back in '98. Today, the wrong champion wins, everybody's just, they're in an uproar.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on, even in, like as you said, the indie scene. But I don't want to cover the dark side of stuff because it's too much. As you said, like we've all seen Dark Side of the Ring. We've all seen like the bad things that wrestling can do. But the way we're approaching it now with this new company that I'm working for, Main Premier Wrestling, we're trying to give people an opportunity, trying to give people a chance. And we have WWE. I know he's not in the Hall of Fame. He should be. Tatanka coming in, and we have a show in Skowhegan on April 19th, and we got Chris Masters coming. Like we're trying to do good things for these companies and try to bring other people in. I've been in the business for a long time, and I know seen a lot of faces come and go, and I'm trying to do something different in Maine. Like there's a lot of great companies in Maine, NAWA, Limitless, Let's Wrestle. I love all those guys, but we're trying to use people from each other company, bring people in from out of state. We've got some people from Canada coming, and I'm giving you the exclusive here. I told you I was going to do this. We have going entering into our MPW heavyweight title match on March 16th on 89 Island, Maine. We got Perry Von Vicious. He just threw his hat in the ring, and he's coming for the title. Yeah,
Wow. That
Perry
that
Von
that
Vicious.
that's interesting because I remember, I watched. He's one of these guys, and I'll tell anybody when I too took breaks from wrestling, as even a fan, just because life got busy. The mainstream wrestling, um, just wasn't piquing interest for me at time, and I didn't know about an indie scene. I didn't know there was local scene because when I went to an indie scene as a kid in an indie show, I would go into a show and I would see a bunch of no name guys wrestling. I'd wait for that intermission because then the honky tonk man would be there, the warlord would be there. They'd be signing autographs, taking pictures. I'd be buying the WWE cards, and then maybe we would get one, more guy coming in, but it was all just these, ex WWE guys. I was astounded when I walked in 2017. Honestly, just I went into a show in Dedham, and I was just astounded because everybody had a character, everybody had a role, everybody had a personality. Now everybody was, the wrestler. They didn't need WWE guys. They didn't need old wrestlers. They didn't need legends. They were all part of the show. I was just like, wow. I was amazed. And Perry Von Vicious was one of the guys that was there. Now back then, he rocked this Wild Money suit. It was hilarious. And I'm a big fan of Hales, and he was just nasty to the crowd, just snobbish. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And he was something that I just kept an eye on since then. And then, he kind of changed over time. And my God, has he changed? He really has turned into a human monster truck.
He is, and that's why I'm glad he's going to be an addition to our show. Like, I can throw names out there that, like, we got Blade Bandit coming, who's one of my favorites. We have me there. Johnny Primer's going to be there. We have who else do we have coming? Trying to think. We got Alexander Lee. Everybody loves Alexander Lee. Jason Maverick's going to be there. We got Jimmy Limits returning to Maine. Black Rose is coming back to Maine. Just there's a bunch of guys, and then I was told that I'm allowed to tell you this too. On April 19th in Skowhegan, we have the Dirt City Murder Crew coming, and
Oh, wow.
I think they're. I heard that they going to try to challenge POS, so that's going to be a banger of a match right there.
And which iteration do you have? Who do you got representing them? You got Mike Montero and Jamie Tucker?
No, I think we have Divine and Montero. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Wow.
and I've been
That
in the
takes
ring
it
with
way
all
back.
four of those guys. So,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Like that's one of my favorite. Talk about another team that I walked into at the same show. They were called Detox at the time, but it was Ricky Medeiros and Jason Devine, and then Mike was there, and they all were just interacting. I was like, wow, this is a real stable. They're a real crew. Like I said, I never experienced anything like that on the indie scene, only on WWE. So I had nothing to even like compare it to. And these guys I've just been following now steady since that time, and it's great seeing them move around and move out and get out of the local shows, local scenes, get further on, working big people, better people. It's great to see. It really is. And that's what's really keeps things going. I love seeing people move on, and we get to see that now. And sometimes it's really rapid. One day you're watching these guys are in the VFW, they're grinding, and a couple months later they get a break somewhere on TV, and they're performing on the national level. It's amazing.
It is crazy. Like, I'll mention this guy too. Mark Quinn used to come up for IWE sometimes, and look at him now. He's on AEW. He's got his own private party with his brother. Like, seeing him then, you never thought that that's where he'd be, and it's crazy to see where these guys go.
It really is. And they even go further. I mean, speaking of Perry Von Bish, I mean, forgot to mention he just came back from a tour in Japan with Rip
Yep, he
Bison.
did.
Like, taking all that strong style experience with already the power he has, he's gonna be devastating. I mean, he is a force to be reckoned with. He already was, like I said, and just coming back with all that knowledge, it's great. Um, and seeing more and more people travel, I'm seeing now Channing Thomas going to Canada, Channing Thomas going to Germany. He's another one. I saw him, used to watch him in Dedham, and now he's making waves. These are the guys and girls that of this generation that are they're showing two things. A, they can be successful even on the indie scene, and B, if you really want it, you can get it. And it doesn't take years and years and years and years. It can happen as fast as you kind of want it.
I agree, but we will cover this because we talked about this personally. There is a dark side to it too. There's always people who want to see you fail, and there's always people who are trying to throw shade at new promotions coming up because they call my biggest favorite thing is the tax return pro wrestling, and we're MPW is not trying to be a flash in the pan. We are trying to build something in Maine for guys to come try out, have a good time. We got a lot of good stuff coming. I mean, I have a hardcore match, and I haven't been in a hardcore match in quite a long time versus JP O'Reilly going for the hardcore title. So we got something for everybody. You like hardcore wrestling? Come on out and see that.
I mean, I'll be honest. I've seen that side. I've worked with smaller promotions, basically backyard promotions, and they can rent a hall, you can rent space, and guess what? You can wrestle if you have that money, and that money can come back from a tax return, most definitely. And what happens, in my opinion, is a lot with these promotions, or with even some of them, is they get egos in this and that. And if you're doing things for fun, cool. But if you're doing things to try to step on people's toes and try to make waves, and you're way underqualified, it's kind of like, just stay in your lane and do what you're supposed to do. Now, in your case, you're putting together a reputable show. You've already, named one person to Tonka. I remember, the last time I saw him wrestle personally was actually the Royal Rumble in '93 in Boston. I was a little kid, but I was in fourth row. He was in the 4-on-4 match at the end of the night. But he's another one of those, people from that era, and we are the same age, so that era of wrestling, it was kind of fun. You had people like Tatanka, you had people like Papa Shango, Kamala. You had these characters that were just coming out, and they were very well put together as that character. And it continues today. And you can ask him now; he'll still tell you, he never sold out, and that's the great thing about Tatanka. He still remembers and talks about stuff that happened then. I've seen some kind of superstars go the opposite way, and they're just like, oh, WWE was back then. Now I'm this, all new person, whatever. It all depends, I guess, how you left, why you left, and so forth. But yeah, to go back, to what you were saying about the shade, it's unfortunate because the thing is also, honestly, there's more than enough fans to enjoy multiple promotions. And again, this is without intentionally stepping on people's toes, booking the same spot, or booking the same night, or trying to book the same talent the same night, because that's a pain in the ass. I've seen that happen. And you can really block somebody's show by doing it. It's a terrible thing. But if you're running different shows, and even if it's in similar parts of Maine, there's no reason why people can't share fans.
I agree with that. And I hope that, some of the fan base comes out because a lot of people haven't seen me from, like, I grew up on the Indian reservation that we're going to. Like, my father still lives over there, so I'm hoping that people who haven't seen me wrestle will come out. Our pre-sale's already pretty solid, And we're not trying to step on Let's Wrestle's toes or Limitless toes. We actually are in good conversation with Randy Carver, asking him to like offer us talent and like some of the dojo students, like, hey, who's ready to come in? And we'll give them a spot. We'll give them a chance to, come see what they can do. That's what we want to do. We want to work with these other promotions to make it something good in Maine. Like Maine's had a bad rap once in a while, and we're trying to get far away from that. There's been a few promoters who pop up in Maine that are just, they're not good, and it
Well,
happens.
and that's the thing. But for every bad promoter, I'll give it this. For every bad promoter, shady promotion, or just shitty promotion that pops up, there is three or four like good promotions that will get a little better and just be like, okay, let's end this nonsense. And that is, it is self-policed in a way. I feel the whole wrestling industry, if it's done properly. Otherwise, if people are turning their backs, that's something different. But I mean, I do see a lot online, and these bad promoters come in, especially if they're criminals and crime and doing other things. They're pretty quick to get stomped out. But like you said, that's not the only issue. There could be people that just don't pay. There could be other shady people in this world. There's a lot of shady things that happen. But like you said, for the most part, I feel like Maine has done a great job to rebuild itself as a premier wrestling. I mean, I drive at least a minimum 3 hours from Mass to go watch Maine wrestling because I prefer it. And my whole take on it is I'm there. Yeah, sure. I guess there's a few promotions that I enjoy or that I will say I'm a fan of, right? But when it comes down to it, I'm a fan of the wrestlers. I'm a fan of who's on the card. If for instance, one time I drove like almost 6 hours to Pennsylvania because I really wanted to see Sidney Bacabella wrestle, and he was on this Camp Leapfrog card. It was 101-degree day. We were sitting in the H2O center, sweating balls, but I drove that to see him wrestle. Not to see the promotion, but to see him. And that's kind of the person I am. Now, it happens to be that, there's nobody that's really exclusive. So guys and girls get on multiple shows. So I'll go to multiple promotions. But that's for them. Do I respect promoters? Of course, and I enjoy their shows, and I like how each one tweaks it a little bit, and characters change and things like that. But again, I like to go to support the wrestlers.
And that's good. We like having people like you that do that. Like even you inviting me onto this podcast. Like that's a cool thing. We can get our name out there. Like I'm not really here to talk mostly about myself. I'm here to talk about Maine Premier Wrestling because that's my new venture and that's what I want to do. I want to slowly come back from the wrestling point and just be the booker. And I like to see things come together, like matches I put together. I'm more excited for other people's matches than my own at this point. Like seeing
Is
some of
this
the matches we
is
have
this
going
your
on.
first is this your first run at booking and doing this
It
kind of
is
thing?
not. I
Okay.
actually ran a couple shows, three shows many years ago. Primer Inc. Presents, and my first show I had New Jack on there.
Wow.
So yeah, so I've done it before, but I'm glad that I'm able to do it again. I've made a lot more contacts now, and you know, having access to more people is nice. So like, if someone's gonna cancel or someone doesn't want to drive as far, like I've reached out to a lot of people, and people are like, well, I don't want to drive that far. It's like, okay, well, we can find other people who will. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. I understand we all get older. Nobody like I used to travel all over. Me and Alexander Lee used to be road buddies. Would go to NCW as you were talking about earlier. We used to go there a few times. We'd go to Rhode Island, Connecticut. We used to go to Vermont, Mass. So I used to go all over. But this age, I'm good that it's 20 minutes away from my house.
And again, and I mean, and that goes back to like what I said. It's really how bad you want it, and it's not again, no shade. Some people at certain ages, you don't need it, you don't want it. You're not looking right now to get booked for WWE to be in WrestleMania's main event. I mean, the work just to go into that alone is just unimaginable. You get to ages, and it's just like, okay, this is what I want out of this industry, and this is what I'm looking for. And to other people, it might look lazy. It might look like, oh, he's not doing anything. But it's like, nah, that's what this person wants or whoever they wants to do. If they want to work one show every 4 months, that's what they want to do. You know, and that's just it. There's that thing, but I do see people that kind of look at and be like, "Oh, they're just being lazy." And it's like, well, no, they it's what they want to do. You know, there's not, you know, you can't compare someone that's 40 to someone that's 19 looking to get into the industry, and someone that's been, you know, in the industry for 20 something odd years, you know, like you just said, traveling, you know, back and forth for 20 years. There's a difference. There's a difference in just how, you know, you've learned to operate. Maybe you've learned that it's more profitable to just work within 20-minute range and work one or two shows a month, and instead of working one show every week, you know, going the long distance. There's a lot of different things and a lot of different variables. Some people like to just put themselves out there and get their name, and I've seen people work, you know, 8 shows in a weekend. They'll be doing double duty. Like I said, it's all what people want. But it sounds like this is what you want to do right now. You want to push this show. You want to take this show and make this, you know, something that's proud, something that you can be proud of, something that Maine can be proud of.
Yeah, 100%. Like as I said, I love a lot of the talent we have coming. Like I'm booking some of my friends to come wrestle, and I'm booking people, some people I might not like, but they're a good talent. I just want them there. You know what I
So let
mean?
me,
Like I
yeah. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry to keep cutting up, but I was just gonna say because you said booking your friends, and it kind of just reminded me. Like I said, I used to do a little bit booking here and there, and it was nothing. It wasn't like a show like this, you know. It was, you know, we would rent a hall, we'd rent, you know, a training space, and we would do tapings. You know, I was mostly I'm a film person, so I would be filming. But then, you know, I got into the booking, kind of talking to talent, but the problem with that, there was no budget. So you know, it's very hard to book when there's nobody paying, and you got to kind of like, it's like fishing without bait. It's just not happening. But there's one thing that I always got shit on was like, why are you talking to that one? He's your friend. Do you feel like people like look at that negatively that you're booking friends, or is it just it's cool because your friends are all good wrestlers?
I feel like that it's gonna come both ways. Like a lot of my friends are respected. Like I'm really good friends with Alexander Lee. Like I've known him since he was 19 years old, and I'll put him on every show I'm on. But people are gonna be like, "Oh well, you have him in this spot or you have him here," and it's probably gonna get shade. Like, why am I not in that spot? Why am I not there? And the thing is, I want people to earn their spots too. Like, prove to me why you should be on this show. We have a lot of hard work going into this. My wife, she's the ring announcer, and she's also going to be she's our social media manager. She does a lot of work. Neil's done a lot of work. He got us the building, he got us tickets, he got us sponsors, stuff like that. Like everyone's putting in work to do this, and I'm not just here to like book every one of my friends. But doesn't you're gonna make friendships in the business no matter what business you're in. If you have a 9 to 5 job, you're gonna be friends with some of your coworkers. But I think that some people might look on it negatively that I have my friends in certain places in the card and stuff like that. And if I get shade for it, it's gonna happen. Not everyone's gonna be happy. I can't make everyone happy.
No, that is true. You're not, and it's not your job to really make everybody happy, except the fans. The fans, that's your job. Make the fans put on an entertaining show, and that's by getting good, entertaining wrestlers. And like I said, it's not like you're using, you know, like, you know, your one friend that's been, you know, training for 12 years and has never been on a show. And it's like, oh, let me use this one. You know, like you said, you're throwing reputable names out there. You know, Alexander Lee has been, you know, true and true again. You know, wherever you can see him. I've seen him wrestle all over the place, and you know, he just always puts on a tremendous show. And you know, just by the talent that you're talking, you know, all these people on that show are just, you know, right now making waves in, you know, the industry, and so it's going to be a really exciting show. And I love seeing these kind of things, you know, because you know we see them a lot in mass, yes, we do, but then you know you get main wrestling, and not that there's nothing, like I said, wrong with. I love main wrestling. Like I said, I drive main wrestling, but I don't know if it's just because I don't live in Maine and I live in Mass, so I only follow like, you know, like 5 or 6 promotions. But it just seems that Maine doesn't have, or it could be because you guys are bigger, but Maine doesn't have as many promotions or as many shows run as Mass.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Mass does have a lot of companies. I mean, there's quite a few in Maine. There's Crown of Maine, which is a big one, but that's way up north. Like that's completely the opposite end of us. You got NAWA that Larry Huntley runs. You got Let's Wrestle Limitless that Randy Carver runs, and I mean those are like the big ones right there. There's a few other ones that I don't really need to talk about because I don't want to talk about them because we don't have to get into that. Like MPW kind of came to our ideas because we had a show that was coming up that was there was just a lot of bad stuff that happened. It's been covered before. I don't really want to dig too far into it, but we kind of got screwed over. So we're like, why don't we just try to do our own thing? And there's been a lot of companies in Maine that have closed down. That it's sad that they closed down, but there's room for everybody, and that's what I want to do. I want to make room for everybody, and Mass has some pretty solid promotions up there too. I still follow some of the guys because I'm friends with some of the guys that wrestle on those shows. So I like to see my friends do good, and maybe sometime they can come down here and work for MPW, and that'd be even better.
What do you think of the return of EWA?
I like sorry about that. I don't know if it
Yeah,
cut us off.
yeah, cut us off for a second. You were saying
Oh,
I
I like Adam Booker, the guy who's running it. He's a good guy, and it's cool that they're giving wrestling fans something in that area too, because that's Sanford area, I believe. So
it's a little
I
bit
never was a
shorter of a distance from me, yeah.
yeah.
No, and and it is, and you get some pretty good wrestlers out there as well, and you got some similar guys, some of the same guys. Um, so like I said, like I think it's just maybe because, like I said, Maine is so much bigger that you do have somebody running 3 hours east, and I mean rather 3 hours north, and then you got your promotion that's 3 hours this way. And it's like, well, people aren't driving around like unless you're a diehard 3 hours for pro wrestling, indie style. That's not the norm. Most people like to go outside, and that's why I think Mass is done. Almost every town there seems to be, but with that comes what show's using which talent, which show gets kind of bit, who gets bit. And I've seen it happen, unfortunately, where there'll be 3 shows the same night, and it's like, oh, this isn't good. How you got the talent going back and forth, somebody isn't getting shot. It's just the fans don't know where to go or what to do.
I've seen it here too. There's been shows that have coincided like running, but they're usually opposite ends. But I have been on a show before that was in Brewer, and then there was one right in Fairfield. So you're right. It kind of splits the fans, and we're not trying to do that. Like we try to talk to other promoters. Hey, when are you running? Like, what date are you running? So we don't overlap because we use a lot of the Limitless Dojo kids and we use some of the NAWA guys. So we don't want to have to split fans, split our roster, and have this guy not available because he has to go here or this guy over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you're using them, I mean, first you got to make sure no limitless, no knowledge shows running. If that's good, then you can start to branch out a little bit. But yeah, um, especially if you're going to be pulling talent or using talent, and there's nothing worse. Like I said, I've seen it happen. I've seen shows in Mass. This kid, he had a show, smaller show. He took some talent from a school or on a bigger show, and things were running fine, things were going good, and all of a sudden the school was like, "Nah, I need those 3 kids this night." And the kid was like, "What?" This was like a week and a half out. He's gonna make phone calls and book new kids, and it's just like, "Oh, that sucks. That sucks." But that's the indie scene. Nobody's exclusive, man. Like people just can do what they want. They're not even guaranteed to show up.
That you're 100% right. Like I hope that the talent we have is going to show up. I mean, you always have to have contingency plans. I tell my promoter that all the time. Is like, don't worry, man. If card's subject to change, as they say, it's a famous statement because it's true. People can get hurt. People can not make it. People can have car trouble. Stuff's gonna happen. So you have to have your backup plans going. So, and there's
Definitely,
not a shortage of wrestlers.
yeah, and honestly, I feel like even since 2020 and beyond, the pandemic was a real kind of reminder. Shit can get halted. You're up in Maine, shit kind of got halted. But I feel like illness too. People get the cold now or the flu now, and they're not gonna go and come and wrestle. Where 2019, they probably were coming to the show to wrestle. Now, no, they staying home. They calling you. I don't feel good. I got a sore throat. I got a cough, and that's it. Where before they would just push through it. So I feel like that's also kind of changed the game a little bit. So there is always this like, oh, somebody could be sick, somebody could be, this, especially where the locker rooms are the same. When one person gets sick, everybody gets sick, and then everybody just get it. But those are like the kind of just kind of the blemishes of running a promotion, but to it and helping run it, but to it, there's a lot of fun to it now. You get to play kind of a god in your way. You're pitting these two against each other. Now, you kind of like, is that something that was like your like even like when you were wrestling? Was that something you kind of always thought about? Like, I want to make the matches. I want to be the one, to you know decide who's gonna face who. Or
That's
is it
where I
something?
always wanted to go. Yeah, I always wanted to go in wrestling because we've all done it as fans. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm not a wrestling fan. I watch wrestling weekly. I'm still a fan. That's how I got in the business. I hate when people are like, "Oh, you're a mark because you watch wrestling." Look at these figures behind me. Geez, like I'm not a wrestling fan at all. Like I'm gonna be a fan to the day I die. So being able to put matches together that I want to see and being able to like I've talked to WWE Hall of Famers on the phone to say, "Hey, you want to come wrestle for us?" or WWE stars that I grew up watching. That's like a dream for me. Like that's one of the best things that could ever happen. And it's great that we can do this in the state and go to the place that I grew up on, like the Indian reservation where my father lives and my grandpa lived and my uncles and all that stuff. Because we had, I'll even mention it by name. We had a show 12 years ago on the Indian reservation for NWA on Fire, and it was awful. And they were just not. I don't like to give shade to anybody, but we're gonna just mention them. They they booked it as me and Alexander Lee because his family lives over there too. Then we got there and everything changed because like, oh, you're not that caliber to be there. And I was like, I sold you tickets to be here. Like, I don't understand. So being able to put matches together, seeing certain people go against each other is great. Like I still play the wrestling games, and that's a fun part for me. So being able to do it and then seeing it live and seeing it come together is is fantastic.
No, definitely, and that's what I'm saying. Like, cause some people just kind of get thrown into that role, and like they're like, well, let's just put two superstars together. Let's just put who I think will draw together. But it's also, like you said, when you have that kind of passion, now you start thinking like a chess player. Well, how can I make this engaging? How can I get people to want to watch this? How can I get people to want to come back and watch it? Now the indie scene is more dynamic. It's not just one, match and then everything ends. It is you get, your one match and then it spills into social media and brews for like a month. Then you get it again. Um, they use social media as their weekly platform, as their weekly TV show. You get good promos, you get people interacting, everybody's in character. It's fun. It's the happy side of the internet for wrestling because people can just role play and do what they have to do, and it kind of brings me back to the old AOL days when like you could just go into a chat room and just, oh, I'm this person, and start typing, sipping water here. um, but no, it brings the kayfabe back into wrestling when it's done properly, and it spills over. So now you can start to think long term on your matches. Hey, I can have this guy fight this guy, but that will sell tonight. But I can get these two to start to brew, and this might spill into a three-show showdown. So you can do a lot more cool things now. I feel with the emergence of the internet and social media, YouTube, all these platforms that kind of show video and opinions and wrestling, from wrestlers where they can speak.
I agree. I don't know if you saw my promo, but I attacked JP O'Reilly outside of a building because he thinks he wants to be a hardcore wrestler, and I'm not gonna lie. Me and Alexander Lee had some of the best hardcore matches in the state of Maine. Fans bring the weapons, falls come anywhere, stuff like that. And JP O'Reilly's an up and comer in the hardcore world, and I'm trying to prove a point to him that he's not gonna walk away with that hardcore belt. Like that's the belt that I want. I built hardcore wrestling in Maine, and all these guys want to try to take that title from me, and I'm not playing around. Like I love wrestling, and I love hardcore wrestling, not deathmatch wrestling. That's a little too extreme for me. I can't do the light bulb tubes, but I've done barbed wire, I've done thumbtacks, I've done the skewers, I've done more crazy stuff than I even can name. And social media is a great platform for that because who would know that that's stuff I've done? Because we're gonna have new fans coming in to see us that don't know who Johnny Primer is, don't know who JP O'Reilly is, don't know who Eric Johnson is. Don't Alexander Lee, he's definitely one that everybody knows who he is. But like other guys that we have coming in, they don't know. And it's great that social media gives us that platform where we can show that. Like I remember back when I first started wrestling, pretty much all you got was a poster and you didn't have event pages up on Facebook. You got a poster and you told your friends, hey, buy tickets, come see this. Sold VHS tapes. Like, hey, this is us on VHS. And now it's everywhere. YouTube is a great platform.
It really is. YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all these rails, shorts, whatever it is. I tell everybody that's that's a wrestler, have somebody out in the fans that you know, or your family, or your friend, or if not, I'll do it for you, and have them take some of your clips and shorts of what you do, and throw them up on your social media, and you'll see your fans will start to engage. You'll start to gain a fan base. It's just the way of the world. It's just the way of the nature of social media. But I love to put clips up. I love to go to a lot of shows. I like to record clips. I like to tag people, put them up on YouTube, see how far they can go. Some of them got big numbers, some of them get little numbers. It all depends. One of my first videos I got was a very young Becker and Ricky Smokes. They were doing a ending their match, and it got like 10 million views on that. And then I have another one that's got like 15 million views of Ace Romero up in Limitless. And another one that took off was and he's actually gone on to do big things is on JD Drake. He took off in Maine too, another video that took off. So I mean, when these things take off, yeah, it's cool. I think, oh, my channel was doing good, but I also like to think, hey, these people's names are attached to this video. That's who I'm talking about. That's that many eyes and ears on these girls and guys that are wrestling. And that's why I did my podcast, to get eyes and ears on the indie scene. I was kind of bummed when I would go to all these cool shows and see all this great stuff. And everybody's excited, but there's only like 50 people in the room. IWTV wasn't as accessible as it is now. Now I feel like it's more accessible. Before it was kind of a little bit more limited. And nobody could watch these shows but those people. And it's just like, well, no one's talking about it now. No one's doing this. So I was like, let me do something that's going to get eyes and ears on it. And I started a podcast, started interviewing wrestlers. Back in the pandemic when they were doing the tapings, I would do recaps and previews. I did that for about a year after too. But honestly, nobody really cares about the previews and recaps on the indie scene. It doesn't do like WWE. People like that stuff. The indie scene, that's like, yeah. The wrestlers like it though. The wrestlers do though. Maybe I'll go back to doing it for them. But the fans, they don't really care too much. I will be honest. But yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. Honestly, it's about getting eyes and ears on the scene, and that's what I think promotions do: getting eyes and ears on the scene. You're bringing in a show. You're getting wrestlers. You're getting wrestlers from New England, from across the country, from Maine. And these guys and girls are going to go back home. They're going to go, yeah, I worked at this location. And then it gets, a cycle going. Well, other people might want to contact you. They want to work there. You might want other people. They're going to tell you about friends. They're going to tell you about, this guy. Hey, check this one out. And you get to do this whole kind of thing where you get to meet tons of people at a really good rate.
Yeah, and that's all. It becomes a blessing and a problem at the same time because there's a lot of people that are like, "Hey, I want to come work for you," and it's tough, but you have to say no, and that's tough to say sometimes. But we're booked for March. Like we are booked up for March, and people are still messaging me to like, "Hey, I want to come to your show." It's like our show is 2 weeks away. There's no way in hell that you're going to be on this show because I understand it's new, it's exciting, but I don't have a place for them, and I'm not just going to have somebody come up and be like, "Well, I don't have anything for you." I want people to come up
And
another
and
thing
that's
we're
the thing. There's a budget in shows. There's a budget. There's a time limit. Those are two important things. You can't have a show running 12 hours. I mean, even anything over. I've been to shows that run 3, and it's kind of really, really long. You have to have the right amount of matches. You can't have just endless matches. A, B. like I said, budget. You can't pay everybody, and you don't especially can't pay people just to sit there and stand there in the back room. As cool as it is, no promoter wants to pay anybody to shoot the shit with their friends.
That's 100%. Like we are paying people. We want to make sure everyone gets paid because as there's been shady promotions in the past that have not paid people. We want to make sure that we don't get that name. You know what I mean? We don't want to be like, oh, I don't want to go work for Main Premier Wrestling because they don't like to pay people. We're down if you have a price and it's too high for us, we're gonna tell you the truth. Hey, it's not in our budget this time around, or hey, maybe this show we'll have a bigger budget and you can come work for us. It's tough because people travel, as you said, and everything's going up in price.
And
And I want
travel
to make
costs
sure.
is at all time high,
Oh,
and
it's
that's the
crazy.
thing. It is, with gas and everything. It's not like easy, and if you don't get that kind of busload discount anymore. 4 or 5 people hop in the car and go, and it's like it becomes so inexpensive. It's still expensive that way.
It can because I feel like everyone needs to have their own payday. Like, hey, you came from, let's say we're gonna use the Dirt City Murder Crew. They come from Mass, Rhode Island, somewhere like that. Want to make sure that they have enough money to get home because no one wants to wrestle on a show for $20 and be like, well, cool, I can get a bag of Doritos and a soda on the way home. That's nobody wants to do that anymore. It's tough to tell promoters that and it's tough to tell wrestlers that as well. Like no one wants to work that cheap anymore. And I understand they should be paid what they're worth, and I agree 100%. I'm willing to pay people as long as they can prove their value to me.
It is, but that's kind of why you alternate, and that's kind of why you do use some of the students that are going to be at a cheaper rate, that might live closer, that are kind of looking to do things to get into the business, that don't mind doing the spots, that don't mind this stuff, and they don't have the travel expense that gets attached to the names. Then you alternate with more expensive people, and it kind of evens that budget out. But then, like you said, then you'll get, 10 or 20 people that will be like, well, why can't you use me? I'm right here. Well, I'm over here. I'll come. Oh, I'll do it for this much. And they'll try to underbid the other guys. They'll even be like, I'll come for free. It just gets that way. Because, once they hear that you're running a show, everybody wants to just be your friend.
Yeah, that I agree with that. A lot of people that I didn't think wanted to come work for me are like, hey, what's happening with the show? It's like, yeah, it's a show that's happening, but like we're booked. Like, well, you couldn't find me a spot. No, I'm booked. Like that. People, it's hard to say no to people, but it's the bad part of the job and the good part of the job because if I don't want a certain person there, I have that power to be like, well, you don't really fit what we're trying to do right now. And there's going to be people like that aren't going to fit what we're trying to do in MPW. And we are going to have a revolving door of different wrestlers because we want people in Maine to see different people. They've seen the same 10 to 20 wrestlers throughout Maine for many, many years. So we're trying to bring in other people. They can see those people. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't think Chris Masters ever wrestled in the state of Maine, maybe on a WWE house show, but I don't know any other show that he's been on where he's been in Maine.
No, I haven't. And that's awesome. And that's bringing, like I said, different names in. And that's what's going to keep it, the variation and the revolving doors. I mean, it's not a bad thing. People make it sound like, oh, if you're not running a one-up promotion, like you said, and this legitimately isn't just, I got my tax refund back. Let's, play promoter and, put on a show for the boys. And, you've seen that a million times. And we've all, it's a meme around the internet. But that's not the case here. This is the case. You're trying to establish something. With this show, you'll probably have another and another. And, I don't know how many or you're looking to have a year, but, you're probably going to have multiple. So, I mean, I think it's different that way. It's not just kind of just this one shot. You're looking also at it from a long-term distance.
Yeah, we actually have shows up until November. So not every month, but here and there, every other month. I think that's what we're gonna do. I mean, we're doing March and April and May, so we're doing 3 consecutives. But then we're gonna take time off because I feel like in the summer that wrestling is tough to draw people in because everyone's on vacation, doing other stuff, unless they're at like a fair, stuff like that. Like I did the Bangor Fair last year, but people didn't come for the wrestling. They stayed for the wrestling, but they were there to do the other fair events and stuff like that. And that's what it is. Summer's a tough time to get like a good house to be able to pay the bills.
See, it's hilarious because us from me from Mass, I hardly go to Maine in the winter because of the snow. So I'm like, when the summer shows happen, I'm at every one on there like 3 4 hours early. I go to like 2 to 4 dispensaries. I go get my clam plates. I go and get seafood. I make a whole weekend of it, and I revolve whole weekends around just one or two wrestling shows. Um, it's come my wife. I drive my wife crazy. Like, that's really what we're gonna do. This. I'm like, yep, we're going to Maine. We're going to a Limitless show Saturday, and we're gonna go Friday afternoon, and we're gonna come back Sunday afternoon, and we're gonna just spend the whole weekend out there. And it's like, oh, really? I'm like, yep, that's what we're doing. But that's just me, and that's just because I don't like the snow. I don't like the cold, so I tend to travel less in the winter. Um, but it is hard because people do like to go away, and fans aren't all together. And you know, in the winter time, you kind of get that blues, or you're stuck in the house. So it's nice to get out, that escape, and everybody gets out on the weekends, and you get that rush. But then you also run into the holidays where people just get busy and don't want to spend money, and then you lose all that too. So I don't know. It has everything has I think its positives and negatives when it comes to like best time of the year for wrestling. But I'll definitely be at one of the shows. I know the weekend that your show is at is actually on. What's the date again?
March 16th.
March 6th. Oh, March 16th. Actually, I might be able to do it. I was thinking it was the weekend before. That's the weekend of my mom's birthday. That's not going to happen. I've already
No,
had
it's
to pull
funny.
out
This
my.
show is actually on my mom's birthday, so she said she
Oh,
might come to the show. So yeah,
that's awesome, and
yeah.
or happy early birthday. But yeah, my mom's birthday is the weekend before. But yeah, actually, I might come out to it. I was been looking at it for quite a while. I see the posts, and like I said, I follow what I follow for wrestling, and I tend to follow promotions that have people on it that I like to wrestle. And this could be like in many ways. It could be like as a wrestler, it could be like as a person, it could be like as a human being. Because there's some shitbags out there that if they're on a show, honestly, I won't go to it.
Yep.
And kind of who people kind of hang with is kind of like an indication of what kind of person they are. And when you start to like get known for being just a shitty promoter or a shitty person, it's like that's fine for whoever, but I don't want to go to your show. Like, I can stay home. It's cool. But I kind of look at the roster and I look who's working, because there's people out there that won't work for certain promoters or won't work with certain people. So I kind of look for these indicators, and if everything looks great, then I start to follow them. And of course, when I follow them, I'll see every post that gets made. But yeah, you're one of those promotions that I kind of follow along because there's a lot of, like I said, a lot of good stuff. The first naming, honestly, was Tatanka. I love Tatanka. He's one of my childhood heroes, honestly. Just something about the character. I mean, I guess everybody had like one Native American wrestler, right? Before that, it was like Chief Jay Strongbow or whatever. But for me, it was Tatanka. When he came out, like he had the headdress. I remember Survivor Series '92 very, very well. Because they used to do them at the time the night before Thanksgiving, and this was an untraditional Survivor Series. It wasn't 4-on-4. They had singles matches.
Oh,
It had
okay.
one of my other all-time favorite matches, Nails versus Big Boss Man in a nightstick match. But that's for another story. But this was Tatanka versus Shawn Michaels, HBK, and Tatanka was still undefeated at the time. HBK is still the headdress. Actually, no, it wasn't HBK. Sorry, it was Rick Martel. He had stole the headdress, and he was like prancing around with it and whatever. And I got looped into the story, and then it followed into me watching Tatanka versus HBK at WrestleMania 9, and even more into the storylines with him and Lex Luger and so forth. But he was always been one of those wrestlers that just, like I said, he was at the age where I was just like, oh, this is cool. I don't know. Some people didn't like him. I think I don't know, but I never heard one person that was like, "Oh, I didn't get excited when Tatanka had a match." He's someone that always brought it.
And that's what we want to do with like. There's going to be a lot of kids at this show because there's a lot of families that live over on the reservation. So we want to make it family friendly. Like I understand there's some promoters that like to do all that stuff that like we're not gonna have a death match, we're gonna have a hardcore match, which is fine. That can be family friendly. But like Tatanka is one of my favorites too, and that's why when the promoter suggested it, I was like, hell yeah, let's get Tatanka. Let's see what he's doing. See if we can get him on the show. Like perfect for an Indian reservation, bringing in one of the biggest Native American stars in wrestling.
Yeah, and he's honestly one of the most responsive to fans. Like you can ask him almost anything on any of the social platforms. He'll probably retweet it or do share it. He'll answer it. He knows the answers to the questions. Like he doesn't blow fans off. Like I said earlier, he'll talk about what happened with like Luger and Ted DiBiase in the no sell, selling out and all of that. He'll talk about everything. It's great. It's great to see someone still into it, but it's also great to see someone that's had stardom. He has figures made. He has loyalties in wrestling. He might not be in the Hall of Fame, but he's still getting paid somewhat because he's in video games. He's in places, right? Still interact with fans like he's just one of the, local guys. And honestly, I commend that because he didn't let it get to his head. Some people have. Some people shut down their accounts as soon as they get to WWE, and they'll stop talking to everybody they know because, well, that was then, and that was the old me, and now I'm a superstar. It's like, yeah, but how do you think you got there?
Right.
Who do you think was rooting for y'all? It wasn't who do you think was selling out, shows. It was the fans coming to shows and promoters going, well, this guy's a draw. Let's rebook him. Let's rebook him. And most of the time it starts with friends and family. Honestly, that's your first line of defense. That's your first draw. If you can't get them to go, then well, I don't know. I mean, I know people that don't like wrestlers. I can't say that, but you want that crowd. But like you said, you were drawing local fans in, and then they didn't even use you. That's kind of shitty.
Yeah, and I've run into that a lot with promoters, and that's why I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that booker that's going to be like, "Oh, well, you're in this match," and then when they get there, be like, "Oh, never mind." Like, I don't want that shit to happen because it's not fair to the wrestlers. It's not fair to the fans. But stuff can change because stuff can happen, as we've talked about several times. But
Oh,
it's kind of a
legit stuff
redemption
can
story.
legit stuff can happen, but I mean, sometimes these things are done intentionally, like just to sell tickets or so. But like you said, you don't want to be known as that. You want to start this as something new and something better. You want people to say, "Hey, look, I want to go to another Johnny Primus show." I mean, this is going to be, this is good wrestling. This was entertaining. This was fun. I saw some good matches that night. Those are kind of feedback you want. You don't want to go and be like, yeah, I could tell it wasn't right. Oh, the talent wasn't even looking happy. Sometimes you can see that. You can see a whole night get just ruined because of whatever happened with the promoter and the talent prior, and you can just tell. It's just, and there is that unprofessional side. Not every promotion is going to be up to par, and there's a wide spectrum of wrestling from, like I said, backyard right up to right before WWE or even surpasses it, but just isn't national. And then you have everything in between called indie wrestling. And when some fans think of it, they just think of the backyard. And like some fans just think of, this way. But I like to get into it all, honestly, and see it all because it's all makes it up. But you were saying, you're bringing the extreme into it, and that's great. I was a big fan of ECW, and I liked ECW for many reasons. It wasn't just the weapons and the swearing and stuff. I liked it because it brought a different style of pro wrestling to pro wrestling. We had all seen the gladiator style. We had seen the Hulk era of wrestling. We had seen the submission work. We've seen WCW Southern style. But when ECW came out, it was a totally different style. You saw almost every day people sometimes fighting, but other times it was like I said, you had people like New Jack and Sabu, Rob Van Dam. They were bringing new things to the game. But it wasn't deathmatch, and there is a difference. Like you said, I would say like deathmatch is like XPW style. You got these blood everywhere. People are bleeding. ECW is extreme. There's some blood. There's some danger, but it's not. It's not like that. There's no glass involved. There's no. You might bring weapons, but you're not going to maim them with them.
Well, I don't know if JP O'Reilly wants to keep talking trash about me on social media. I might have to maim him a little bit. Like I don't like to get into that, but he wants to think he's, big and scary, but I've run into bigger and scarier than him, so he just I don't think he realizes like the tricks that I have up my sleeve to get that hardcore title because this might be my last run, who knows? So I'm gonna make it worth every penny. And he's gonna be face to face with me across the ring, and I know a thing or two about the hardcore wrestling that I don't think he knows that I know. So he's in for a treat, and the fans are in for a treat because either way they're gonna get the scientific wrestling, they're gonna get the technical stuff, they're gonna get the gladiator style, they're gonna get the hardcore style. We have Nakoma coming as well, so we have a
Wow.
woman. Yeah, so we got a woman coming, so you get women's wrestling. It's gonna be a little bit of everything. Like there's gonna be something that each fan is gonna go home and be like, oh wow, that was really cool, or hey, that Johnny Primer guy, he was a jerk, or I really liked Perry Von Vicious. He was a really cool guy. Or that Blaine Bandit, he told me that I was stupid and I smelled funny. No, it's gonna be stuff like that, and that's the memories I want people to take home because then they're gonna
So
want
it's
to buy
definitely
tickets
something,
again.
bring the kids to and bring the wife to, and you could bring the family out to. It's not going to be this kind of adult kind of show. It'll be for everybody.
Exactly.
And let me ask you, where can fans get tickets right now for this?
So they can go to the they Eventbrite. I don't know the link off the top of my head, but it's on our poster. They can also go to the social service office on Indian Island because that is what this show is benefiting. Like 50% of ticket sales is going to them. We also have a 50-50 raffle where we're going to have some stuff in there. We're going to have a Tatanka signed figure in that 50-50 raffle, which I might have to put my money in as well. Black Bear Cinemas donated a huge, like one of those movie posters of the Iron Claw, so that's pretty cool. And there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff for everybody. Like, and I mean, our VIP sold out in a week, so like people wanted to meet Tatanka. So tickets on Eventbrite. If you visit MP, I think it's MP Wrestling E on Facebook. You can find us on X. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram when the promoter remembers to update it. And we're everywhere. We're trying to get all those social media hits. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely, definitely. And I'll put links inside the about section of this video so people can see it. Um and that'll just kind of hopefully help too and get tickets going. But there is also the people that just wait till last minute. There's a lot of people that just wait till the day of. I honestly I now wait till almost the day of because there was once upon a time that I used to buy tickets as soon as they came out. And I would buy them all, as much as I could. And then all of a sudden, I was noticing I had like 7 tickets and I was only going to 2 of the shows. And I'm not one of the persons that go and start asking for money back. I'm not going to do that. But I'm just taking the loss. I'm just like, if I just did wait, like I didn't know how much. So now I kind of wait a little bit, unless it's something I'm going to plan around. But there is a good amount of people that do just go day of, and it's the foot traffic and all of that. People still do the old school method of putting posters up too on posts and such. Um,
Yeah, we posted all over Bangor, Brewer, Orono, Old Town. We didn't put them on polls because I got in trouble for doing that once back in the day. I guess you're not supposed to put them on polls anymore in the state of Maine. It might be different in Massachusetts, but in Maine you can't put them on polls anymore. So you can put them at like bus stations, stuff like that. Everywhere people will see them, like where there's a lot of foot traffic. Because as you said, people do wait till the day of. It might be people who live on the reservation who are like, "Hey, what's going on in there? Maybe I should go check it out," and they'll buy tickets at the door. So we're hoping to get some of those foot traffic. I mean, our pre-sale number is pretty solid right now. I'm happy with it. I mean, of course, I want more fans. Who doesn't want to have more fans at their shows?
Oh, definitely, definitely. Everybody wants that sellout and just have the fans and like again, and that's just more eyes and ears on the product, on the wrestlers, on everybody. And everybody works well off that energy. Like I said, I can't wait to see even more. What's coming out is this show's really coming together great. Have to do say you're doing a fantastic job with it. A lot of great names starting, like I said, with Tatanka and all the other people. Now you just mentioned Perry Von Vicious, very exciting. Like I said, the human monster truck. There is nobody out there like him. There's not many big men wrestlers left, and he's one of them. He brings it back to those Sid Vicious days with that power bomb. Really does, really, really does. I have to say though, thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking. This has been great, and I'm hoping I can get out to that show. Like I said, I'm gonna talk to the wife tonight and see what the schedule is looking like. And if I'm free, I think I'll be out for that one.
All right, man. Thank you for having me again, and thank you for letting me, promote MPW. Like it's. I hate to say it, I have kids, but this is my fourth baby. You know what I mean? It's going to be great that me and Neil Day are going to put on a great show for everyone to come out and see. So I'm going to say the date one more time because I tell people to beat the date in March 16th, Indian Island, Maine. Bell time. I think it's 6:30. I should know that. I'm the booker, but I don't make the posters. But the meet and greet as well, that's already all sold out. But during intermission, you can still go meet Tatanka and get pictures signed. We're gonna have that 50-50 raffle with the Iron Claw poster and the Tatanka action figure that he's gonna sign. So that would be great to anyone's collection. I mean, my collection's pretty good, but it doesn't have a signed Tatanka figure in it. So again, thank you again, Versace, for having me on, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, and thank you everybody at home. Check out this show. It looks like it's going to be a great time. And as always, support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner out.